What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode. I don't even know what this is called. I keep talking about what I'm supposed to call it. I have no idea. If you have any ideas, put in the comments below of what you think this segment should be called. So I had an interaction with someone at the gym, and he was talking about his training program and about his next block. And it's just a friend from school, and we're talking about some simple concepts with training and all that. And it was almost like it really sounded complicated in what he was trying to do. Now he's just trying to drop some body fat. He's been taking some supplements. He's been training hard and whatnot. And his program sounded really confusing, or kind of didn't meet some simple principles that many trainers would actually follow in order just for general health and wellness, or just to get stronger over time. So I had a chat with him, spoke to him, and kind of gave him some simple rules, and I'll go through these rules really quickly. I always say when it comes to a training program, you want to stick to how many days that you can actually pursue. So if you can do 5 days a week, that's brilliant. What you might do with your training program is might actually just split that into upper lower whole body, but you might just change the intensity of each day. So on the first upper day, you might go moderately heavy, so you might do a 5x5 on bench press or something like that. But on the second day, you might end up just doing 3x8 or a 3x8, just to keep the intensity down. Simple principles that you can follow is have a hot day that's higher intensity, another day that's lower intensity. Or if you're looking to put on some size, and you can still follow those principles, but you might have one day that's a lot more volume and another day is a little bit less, or have a different focus, different emphasis. So one day might be, if you're doing upper, you might be focusing on chest. The other day might be focusing more on shoulders, but you still do back and arms on those days. The second principle I want to kind of talk about is you want to target large muscle groups and large muscle, like you want to be able to activate large or target large muscle movements. Targeting large movements will help activate more muscle mass, a large amount of muscle mass. Therefore, you'll be able to move more weight, which will eventually have a transfer effect in terms of your ability to get stronger, put on some muscle mass as well. So a simple way is sticking to your big compounds: squat, deadlift, bench press, overhead pressing, movements that use 2 or more joints, and doing those at the beginning of the workout when you're actually quite fresh, then going to more specific movements, targeting a specific area. So if you're targeting shoulders or whatever it may be, you might go to standing overhead press, you might go to a seated Arnold press afterwards, then you might go into some sort of bent over dumbbell raise, or reverse flies, or some sort of dumbbell raise or frontal raise afterwards, just to induce more fatigue into the muscle, a little bit more micro trauma to help adaptation to occur. Then my friend was talking about keeping sessions to 45 minutes to an hour maximum. Apparently got some advice from a dude from a supplement store, but for me it's more, you shouldn't be bound by keeping the session short, because eventually it could contradict what you're trying to do in the gym. So if you're trying to lift heavy in the gym and the guy says, you should keep your sessions to 45 minutes, it's going to limit you on how much work you can do, because you got 2 conflicting things. You're trying to keep the session short, so therefore you think your rest periods need to be short. But if you're going quite heavy, or if fatigue levels are quite high, you actually do need adequate amount of rest. And there's a lot more research to show that having adequate rest in between sets is actually beneficial to induce muscle protein synthesis than just doing really short rest periods of like 30 seconds to a minute. And they say about 90 seconds to 3 minutes is seen as a bit more optimal if you're trying to go for more hypertrophy. If you're going for strength, you want to go 3 to 5 minutes in terms of rest periods. But it really depends on what you're doing. If you're doing exercise back to back, then potentially doing a 6-7 minute rest might be a bit more ideal. And that's basically the idea, is just keep the training simple. I gave them the idea that when you program for yourself, it can be somewhat difficult because there's certain exercises you tend to be biased towards. And he was trying to, I got him to think a bit more outside the box with his training. So I think the last thing I wanted to kind of explain is he only thought about targeting muscle groups once a week, kind of going back to how many times a week you can train. And I suggested that targeting muscle groups twice a week might be a bit more optimal. The reason why is muscle protein synthesis basically, battery's about to die, I better wrap this up quickly. Muscle protein synthesis only lasts for about, for about 4 days before it actually, you see a decline in protein synthesis. So actually hitting each muscle group every 3 to 4 days is actually a bit more optimal. But I'll wrap it up there. I've got hoodies coming out soon. Got a little promo coming up as well. So yeah, catch you guys soon. Lift well, lift heavy. Catch you around. Peace.